let's talk about first-person weapon field of views. Not actually the screen or viewport field of views, just the weapons. For most first-person shooters, your weapon actually exists outside of the game world, meaning they can't really interact with it. This is for example in games like Half-Life 1 or 2, the Counter-Strikes, the Call of Duties, the Battlefields, and so many other first-person shooters. Exceptions to this are for example the First Sphere and the Arma games. Those have the same weapon for both first and third-person views, as well as what other players are seeing you holding, meaning the weapon your character uses is the one that exists in the game world. Both methods of course have their advantages and shortcomings, but the first one is pretty much the norm. And while I have no actual experience on this, I presume it allows for greater creative and technical freedom. Before the industry's focus on consoles as well as the introduction of widescreen televisions, most weapon models were positioned and displayed similarly on the PC. For example, how the first Counter-Strike displays its weapons, whether on widescreen or not. Oh, come on. Ugh. But after the console market gained interest by the developers, this changed, often leading to increased sizes of the weapons so they could be shown in a greater detail, but also to compensate for the wider space between the player and the television. This has always been a great annoyance to me, as PC ports would just carry over the positions and sizes of the weapons, taking up much bigger portions of the screen than I think is necessary. Thankfully, this has been happening much lesser throughout the recent years, and we've arrived at a happy medium in my opinion, especially in regards to the wide or even ultra-widescreen aspect ratios. However, many titles still don't calculate a changeable field of view into the way their weapons are displayed, which would account to the fact that the vast majority of console games don't allow such changes. But this is a video, not an audio piece, so here are some examples. Let's go a few years back to 2004. Half-Life 2 releases and even had widescreen support, back then out of the box. With the port to the newer Episode 2 engine a couple of years ago, a field of view slider was added into the options, ranging from 75 to 90 horizontal degrees. You would expect the weapon to get larger or a bit warped as the field of view widens, but it actually doesn't change at all. No matter what field of view you put in, the weapons will always be at the same position and be the same size. To change this behavior, there's a console command, but more on that in just a couple of seconds. Borderlands 2 handles exactly the same as Half-Life 2 in that sense that the weapons stay exactly the same, no matter the field of view. An interesting example, however, is Call of Duty Black Ops 2, or in that case, all Call of Duty games, that allow a custom field of view. Here the weapon is actually elongated with the field of view, which I think is the correct way to do this, even if it looks a bit weird in a direct comparison. But now back to our Source Engine game, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Overall, weapon view model handling is exactly the same as Half-Life 2, but there is hope. There's a console command called viewModel_FOV, which allows values between 54 and 68. As you can see, this value sort of moves the weapon further away from the player's view, while not actually distorting the weapon like in Call of Duty. Personally, I would like to see more of the way Valve is handling it and allowing the players themselves to have more control over their weapon field of views, but also positions through either direct settings or through console commands or config files. But as many games don't readily want to provide these options or simply don't allow config editing in this size, I'd rather take the way Black Ops 2 does it, but allow a second value to be used for the weapons, without it being tied directly to the field of view. But please, never ever tie your weapon field of view and position to the screen resolution. Recently I played through Shadow Officer at Mercury, a first-person shooter developed by Zombie Studios from 2004. Back then, widescreen support was something that happened very rarely, so it's no surprise that the game looks best in 4:3 or maybe even 5:4 aspect ratios. However, as it is running on an older Unreal engine, config file editing is readily available with a large amount of options. You can freely change both resolution and screen field of view without any problems. Apart from the fact that both the weapon field of view and the position, as well as part of the heads-up display, are tied to the screen resolution. In 16:9 this still looks okay, I guess. But playing it on my native aspect ratio of 21:9 looks utterly ridiculous. And changing the field of view sadly doesn't help at all. To sum it all up, there are many ways to display the weapons your character uses in a first-person shooter, but please, never tie the field of view of the weapon to the resolution of the screen. Best practice in my opinion would be to allow a separate value for the weapons, besides one for the screen field of view. Anyway, that's about it for this video. As always, I am looking for ways to improve what I do here on YouTube, so feel free to let me know what you think about the video and or what I should improve upon. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed.
We're coming in on both sides.